Welcome to the Nancy Perspective, where every story is a reminder that life's hardest battles often belong to the kindest hearts. I am blessed to be sitting across from Jule Shanks. She has been my friend on Facebook for quite a while now. I don't even know how long. I think we met through a wonderful friend named Nancy Sherry, who I'm also blessed for. But to be sitting across from you, really not knowing a lot about you.
Only what I show you on Facebook.
Only what, and also what I've heard in the last 10 minutes.
Right.
And here is what I want to say before we start. It is incredible how you can really not know someone, but be connected on a level that we really can't explain.
It's in the field.
Isn't it? It's a beautiful thing when we sit in the field and are open. And from what I've heard from you, even in the last 10 minutes, the word is open. The word is abundant. The moment you walked in my home, I felt it for us. And I feel so blessed to be sitting with you in this moment.
Wow.
So I want to take a moment to allow you to introduce who you are. And I guess the reason why you chose to say yes, because I put a call out to Facebook and asked people if they'd be willing to speak to me because of what they've went through or the change that they've had to flow through. And I really want to understand why you said yes. So I'll let you take it away.
Yummy. What a nice introduction.
Well,
Thank
that's
you,
who you
Nancy.
are.
Oh,
You're welcome.
it feels so good.
Well, it's amazing when the energy is the way it is, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So who am I? Oh my gosh.
We have 20 minutes.
I am an embodiment coach. I am a woman. I'm a divine creatrix. I'm magic. I believe in magic. And my mission on this earth is to be a beacon of light and love.
My heart just lit up when you said that. Because 5 years ago, if I had met you, I probably would have walked right by you.
Too hippie, too woo-woo.
Yeah. And yet as I've grown and I've shifted and I've changed, I've opened my heart to the same person within myself.
I think it's rising up within all of us.
It is. And yet it's about awareness.
Yeah.
And hearing it.
Awakening to it.
Yes.
And I think you were talking about this. There's an urgency inside.
There is
that you feel.
Yeah.
There's like this pressure that builds up, and there's this need to seek or know or evolve or grow or however you want to call it. And that is something that a lot of us are feeling. Some of us are waking up to it and embracing it, and then we're being beacons for others to do the same.
I find it often comes with moments. Do you have a particular moment that really woke you up? Because I think what's important for most to know is the fact that we're constantly being pulled and we think it's a bad thing. But I want to wake people up to the fact of the magic on the other side of it. So was there a particular moment for you that you heard that you couldn't ignore any longer?
Absolutely. Yeah. Long Dark Night of the Soul. Have you heard?
I've had multiple.
right?
Over and over and over.
There's always gifts.
Yes.
And opportunities in the challenges, right? And
there is.
It's like, I love do you know the story of the dragonfly?
Tell me.
Okay, so a dragonfly lives its life about 2 years underwater as a nymph.
Okay.
And then at a certain point, it can't control itself, but it starts crawling up out of the water, someplace it's never known before, up to the, up a reed or whatever, a piece of grass, and it busts out of its own body.
Wow.
And becomes a dragonfly.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening to humanity right now.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, it's just like we're waking up to something, we don't know what it is, but we're like leaning into it because there's this like urge to know, or I don't know, step forward,
to hear it, to feel it. Yeah.
So mine was A Long Dark Night of the Soul. I guess I was 43 or 44, going through a really hard breakup.
Yeah.
I think it's always kind of like the bottom of the barrel. And I think relationships are like the most important thing in life.
I think so too.
And when you're in a bad relationship or when you're going through a really hard breakup, that's like one of the worst things that we can go through.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, and so that shook me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it got me to get my ducks in a row. I was depressed for quite a while around that period, though.
It's funny how we, I'm not a big labeler of anything, right? So I'm sure that in this last 5 years, I've had multiple, I call them falls to the ground, multiple moments where you could have labeled me depressed or anxious or any of those things. But I've chosen to allow them to be what they are, right? Because the minute I applied a label to it, it didn't feel as good because society has made us feel like they're wrong. What made you choose to get out of it? Because there's so many of us that are sitting, well, that's right, but there's got to be a turning point, because what I feel right now is society is waking up to this urgency, but we're on the ground and we don't know how to get out. So what made you get out? What made you make that choice?
Well, I'll tell you the exact scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, I was crying myself to sleep. I was waking up crying. That had never, something that hard had never gone through. And I couldn't feel joy. Yeah. And I was doing yoga on the floor during COVID, and I was listening to Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, okay.
And someone named Wim Hof was on there.
Oh, I love Wim Hof.
And he just had so much magic in his voice and enthusiasm and passion. My ears perked up when he said, "My mission is to help people with depression and mental illness."
Wow.
Through cold water exposure, cold water therapy. Yeah. And I was like, what the heck is that? And so he had like a 50% off for a course, and I signed up like 10 minutes later, and then that changed after my first cold shower. I felt joy for the first time in about 6 or 8 months, and I was like, okay, there's something to this, even just 10 seconds of cold water.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can you give the listeners a reason why they should be open to that? Like, what do you think? It did bring about that joy, but what else did it bring for you?
I felt my inner strength, because it's fucking
It
hard.
is hard. It is. I've done it a few times, as I've said.
Yeah.
But to sit there and calm your mind when you're in chaos.
Oh God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gave me a clarity of thought. Like everything fell away except for that moment.
Wow.
Like just to keep myself even just 10 seconds or 30 seconds in a cold shower took all of my focus and attention. And so like my mind wasn't, looping. And
It's interesting, because one of the things that I said when I went and got really sick, and the antidote was mindfulness. Right. So being very present. So that was your strategy of becoming more present in your life. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so oftentimes we're asked then, okay, we have this new presence in our life. How do you think that started to trickle?
Well, I don't want to talk a ton about Wim Hof, because there's so many other things that happen, but I'll tell you how that really took me by the hand and pulled me out in such a way that I was able to very quickly repattern my mind to deal with stressful situations out in the world, because cold water is torture. Yep. It is so challenging to stay committed for a minute I was getting up to 10 minutes at a time, which is way overdoing it. I know, but that's my nature. But that's our nature.
I'm an obsessive. I said I did meditation for competitiveness. Exactly. Yeah, just to do it. Yeah, I get it. Trust me.
Yeah, it is not recommended to go 10 minutes, by the way. Hypothermia is real. But but I was literally noticing in my life when challenging situations arise all the time. Absolutely. I wasn't being as triggered. Wow. I came back to the breath and to presence every time, and clarity. And that gave me a little bit of window to choose differently,
Wow. Yeah. It's so wonderful. It's not what we were originally taught was the key to get out of some of these stressful moments. No. And yet here you are sitting talking about it, right? So what woke you up? Or let me ask this differently. I've been a very traditionalist until I was not.
Okay.
Have you always been open to different?
I'll give you a little background into
Okay, I
my
love
life.
that.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. So I come from a very traumatized childhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for being
Mental
open to
illness.
say that. Yeah.
Alcoholism, violence. I left home at 15.
Wow.
Yeah. And but I was a straight A student. I mean, I found solace in school and my teachers validating me for being
Yeah.
smart, and so I really poured all myself into that. And
Wow.
yeah, and left my younger years behind, and I went on to get a master's in Italy, and I had a beautiful child. And but because I was so severely neglected, I didn't have someone telling me what to do. I didn't have rules. I
Wow.
didn't have shame,
Yeah.
because a lot of shame comes from how we're brought up,
Absolutely,
right?
it does.
Do this, don't do that.
Yep.
This is right, that's wrong. That's dirty,
Yeah.
whatever. I didn't have that, and so I really wrote my own rule book, and so I've always been open-minded.
Wow.
And always been rather fearless. People call it courageous. I don't think that that's what it is. I call it like as I said before, that naive fearlessness.
Yeah.
Just like, I can do that. Why can't I do that?
I think I'm going to steal that from you, because people often say that sometimes I am naive.
Yeah.
But I feel naive and fearless.
Right. I mean, I'm naive in a way that, like, because I'm very connected to my inner child.
So me too. The world is rainbows and butterflies to me.
I live
all
in a
the
love
time.
bubble.
Yep, so do I.
Yeah.
Every day I wake up in a bubble of love.
Mm-hmm. And it's not bypassing. People are like,
I
you're
understand.
ignoring,
Nope.
the problems of the world. It's like, but why wallow in that if I can't change any? If I can do my small part by keeping my vibration a little bit higher, and keeping positive, so that I can radiate that, and that can have ripples.
You are the true reason that I'm doing this podcast, because what empowers me to stand up here and try and hopes to empower people differently is, no matter what you've been through, it doesn't define the now.
No.
And it's very clear to me you've not let the old define the now, but you also see the good.
Have to. And
more than anything, there's no trigger of the old.
Oh, I'm very traumatized. I still I mean, I believe we all bring the past.
We have to, right? We can't leave it fully.
It gives us tools and wisdom, all of that hard-earned life experience. We accumulate
absolutely
tools along the way, and I'm using them.
But I think that's what they're meant for, right? I think the past gives us lessons.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
If we listen, or we just loop in a repetitive.
I've done that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have too.
Mm-hmm.
I get into those, and I still do today sometimes, but I allow myself differently now. I have a lot more compassion for myself now.
Yes.
When I sit in those moments.
And grace.
Yes.
Grace for myself.
I love the word grace.
Yeah.
It is, I'm very devoted to self. I would say those are the words. And so no matter what I'm flowing through, I don't get angry. I just give myself what I wished I could have been given.
Yeah.
And do it very differently as a result.
Mm-hmm.
All of that for you has led you to a path that you always saw, or?
Oh my gosh, I've reinvented myself like Madonna multiple times.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of one of the things I love. I don't know if you're into astrology, but I'm like a quadruple Gemini. And so
I'm a Gemini.
There you go.
What date?
June 9th.
So I'm June 5th.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
6-9.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'm a sex coach.
Yeah. We need to talk about that.
We do.
6-9 has been my favorite number my whole life.
6-9.
Well, it's really interesting because everything in my school, every year, my average was 69.
Oh, so
my whole life, there's something special in it.
And then that
my favorite position. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll have to go on another episode and have more conversations about that.
Yeah.
So no, I've been many things.
Yeah.
I mean, I graduated with a master's in ceramics, and I did that for a while. And then I got into tattooing, and I did that for a while. And I've been a DJ, and now I'm a sex coach.
How did we land there?
Desperation.
Well, you know what? That goes a long way.
It seems to be my inspiration.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an okay place. I think from desperation, I call it the floor.
Yeah.
at the floor, there's nowhere else to go.
No, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that whole rise
Mhm.
from the floor is a big, what did you call it? Naive.
Oh, naive fearlessness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to talk about psychedelics for a moment.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Also, one of my passions that
right,
I don't
okay.
speak a lot about,
Mhm.
but I'm very open to it because I think the world needs more of it.
I think there's a lot of wisdom to be gleaned.
I wholeheartedly
from
agree.
plants.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's the one place. I was on 100 milligrams of antidepressants, and I embraced cannabis, and it changed my whole existence as a human being. I don't know about you, but I find people who have embraced psychedelics speak a very different language. It's more of love than anything else. So I don't know why.
I see myself as like a bridge between the plant world and the human world.
Yeah.
I'm a voice from the vibration that I've learned from plants.
Wow. Tell me more about what that means.
Well, I want to talk to cannabis for a moment because, as I said, I was very traumatized, and I found cannabis very early on. And that, I would say, I call her she.
I love that.
She's very sensual, sticky.
Oh, absolutely.
She stayed with me as a medicine for most of my life. I smoked marijuana for most of my life. Now I don't any longer.
Yeah, so I don't either, but from 35 till now, I did. So I understand.
Yeah. She helped me be a better mother, better person, but more focused.
I understand.
Yeah. And so grateful to her. But then when I was at the bottom of the barrel, when I was going through that long dark night of the soul around 43, 44, I did discover ayahuasca.
Okay. Yep.
And did my first ayahuasca journey.
Wow.
And that
Where did you do that?
Nova Scotia.
In Nova Scotia. Wow. Okay. All right. Keep going.
There's a whole story around that. But so very blessed to have found someone who introduced me to this. And the shaman is absolutely incredible. And that opened up a whole new world and helped me to understand what my calling was.
Wow.
Yeah. And then so that's how I became a sex coach.
Wow.
Ayahuasca showed me what I need to do in the world.
So many people that I know have done this experience like differently, even on TikTok. So like I love watching the people on TikTok that have went through this journey. Tell the people that don't know a lot about it what it is. Can you share a little bit about that? Yeah.
Sure. So it's a combination of two plants.
Yep.
And it comes from Peru.
Yep.
It's a very ancient indigenous tradition.
Okay.
And she's making her way into the Western world, very much becoming popular and even trendy in some circles. And it is a drink. Okay. And it lasts about 4, 5, 6 hours. Okay. There's a shaman or curandero who is a medicine person. And they work with medicine song called Icaros. Okay. And they sing, chant, and play instruments in the dark. You drink this medicine and then you get taken on a journey through the Icaros, the medicine songs. And the rhythm, and it just brings you into different realms, and you work through a lot of trauma. It's not fun.
I understand that.
Yeah, it's not like a recreational, enjoyable experience. It's really can be terrifying.
Yeah, I understand.
You face your demons.
Of course you do.
But all the therapy I did in my life, honestly, the talk therapy, one night of ayahuasca is like 10 years in the chair with my therapist.
I went through a similar journey, cannabis led.
Okay.
With a woman that I'm going to be interviewing later in life or later in my podcast. I think it's Altered Healing. Okay. And she put me under cannabis as well and took me through 2 4-hour sessions of healing and feeling and letting go. Same thing, terrible, wonderful, joyful. Yeah. Woke up a different person. Yeah. Can't go back.
No.
Changed my life.
Yeah.
Better than talk therapy. I'm not a big I think it works, but the methodologies that I'm learning, breath work, these types of things, so much better than I ever imagined, and now wouldn't do talk therapy again. Not to judge it.
No,
but
it works for some people. It's just a very slow process, and we need to wake up now.
Yeah. Well, I think
I needed to.
Well, I think the other thing too that I've really learned is that the more we talk about the same thing over and over, the more we go through it over and over and over. Yeah. And until we can get out of that loop, which we're not good at getting out of that loop.
To skip to the next song, what does it take?
Well, that's it, right? Yeah. So I think these moments help you get out of that, right? So when you say that woke you up to your calling, can you give us the time and place of that?
Yeah, I had like an epiphany.
Yeah.
Under the influence of the medicine.
Yeah.
And the medicine being ayahuasca.
Yeah.
That I have a very compassionate heart.
Well, yeah. I see that.
Because of all the suffering that I've been through.
Yes.
I had a lot of suffering in my life. And now I have come out the other side with such a big, generous, beautiful heart.
Yeah.
That I love, and it's a gift to the world. It's a gift to myself.
I keep putting my hand on my mic. I'm sorry that I do that, but I need to touch my heart. Wow.
Yeah, and people need more people who have been through it.
Yeah.
That can take them by the hand and help them through the pain.
Yeah.
To show them that there's light at the other end, and how to get there.
I feel like this is a perfect time to pause for our first episode, because it's very clear to me that you've taken your purpose, your passion, and all of the old to empower the now and make you exactly who you are right now in the now. And I think the mission of this podcast is that we're often aware that the kindest hearts carry the hardest burdens. But it's when we rise with those burdens, and you are clearly a riser of those burdens. So in part 2, we're going to talk about why you've done what you've done and what you do now and how you help the world. But for now, is there anything you want to leave us with before we transition?
Yes. Hope. Like exercise that hope muscle.
Yeah.
Because even if there's a tiny little flutter or a glimmer, there is something inside of you that will wake up if you can exercise that hope muscle.
Oh my gosh, what a way to end. It is so true. I used to say hope. What did I used to say? My boss used to say hope is not a strategy. And I said, well, it works for me.
Yeah, exactly.
It really does. Thank you for taking the time. Part 2 is going to host more of our discussion and talk more about what you do now. So thank you.
Juicy.
I wish you a great afternoon.
Thank you.